This podcast is sponsored by Dakota Medical Foundation. Many people feel that they are addicted to their smartphone, but are you aware just how addictive modern technology can be? Dakota Medical Foundation will host a summit with Dr. Anna Lemke, professor of psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine and author of the best-selling book Dopamine Nation: Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. Dr. Lemke will discuss the neuroscience of digital addiction, the dire consequences for our nation's mental health, and how we can find balance in these unprecedented times. That's Tuesday, August 15th at 9 a.m. at the Avalon Event Center in Fargo. Details at dacmed.org.
Hello, and thank you for listening once again to the InForum Business Beat podcast. This is your host, Thomas Avanella. We're talking hamburgers today, which, if that isn't great enough already, we have another reason to celebrate because this is the first time that Forum reporter Dave Olson will be gracing us with his presence on this podcast. So, Dave, thanks so much for joining us, and I take full responsibility for not having you on here sooner.
Oh, no, I'm happy to finally make it here.
And so, Dave, we're here to talk today about your recent Saturday centerpiece story that we have in our business section about Maple Beach Grill out in Otter Tail County. So just to set the background for us, how did this story come about and where did you first hear about this?
So we have meetings here at the Forum on a regular basis, as you know, but maybe not our listeners. And at one of these meetings, a coworker, John Lamb, threw out the idea of maybe visiting the Maple Beach Grill as a story idea. He knows that I had written several other restaurant stories this summer, and we were looking for other possibilities, and he suggested that one, and it was a great idea.
And so I know this place it's kind of tucked away a little bit out there. Tell us how you got there and what you learned when you got there during your reporting.
It turns out we had no trouble finding it because I went with one of our photographers, Chris Flynn, who happens to be a big fan of the grill and has been there many times before. He shared that he once made a trip just special to get a burger there. So we had no trouble finding it. It's on Highway 108 in rural Otter Tail County, and we got there by going through Pelican Rapids. It's a short distance outside of Pelican Rapids. And just for folks who might be looking for it in the future, you kind of happen upon it rather suddenly as you're going around Lake Lida. So be prepared. It's got a small parking lot, but once you come across it, you can't miss it. Like you mentioned, it's a little secluded and it's a little out of the way, and it is somewhat small. I should clear up right away maybe some confusion, because when you look for this online, you will often come across something called Maple Beach Resort first. And that is what this area was called because there used to be a little cabin resort there, but that is no more. So it's now just the Maple Beach Grill. And so don't be confused there are remnants of cabins there, but they aren't used anymore. So you'll pull into this little parking lot, and it's kind of a little office area with a grill. And during COVID, it changed its policy to kind of serve everyone outdoors. And because it's such a small space indoors, they kind of decided to stay with that as their seating arrangement. Although the owner, Phil Cowie is his name, said if people want to sit inside at an old countertop, they're not going to kick them out. But they encourage people to eat outside, and it's a very pleasant experience. Both Chris and I had our lunch there, and it was indeed a very pleasant experience to eat at one of their picnic tables as we sort of observed Lake Lida and the people driving by and traffic on the lake, that kind of thing.
So I have to imagine here that the menu must be fairly small. This is not all that big of a place. They must keep it pretty simple.
Yeah, it's a traditional burger place. And I think that's why people migrate there. They've got great burgers. I had one. You can also get chicken strips and maybe one or two other dishes. But the menu is heavy with burgers and different permutations of burgers. So yeah, the menu might be limited, but the ambiance is unlimited. You have the great outdoors. Plus inside, the grill. The walls look much the same as they would have looked, I think, in the early 90s when Phil's family took over the resort and he took over the grill side of the business. He has been there ever since. But so there's photographs of, maybe area residents or their children holding up fish. There's the typical, decorations of old soda bottle advertisements and things like that. So it's really got a lake vibe going on. And I don't think the inside of it has really changed all that much in 30 years.
And you can tell just looking at the photos that are with this story that you can't really fake this aesthetic either. You either have it or you don't. You can't try to put it on. I mean, there is a certain patina that a place like this can only get if it has been around for this long. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, the big word these days tends to be genuine. Everybody's encouraged to be their genuine self, and that is what this place is. It's what you would think it would be. It's good food at a good price, served by people who have been doing it for a long time. And Phil mentioned that they have their local regulars as well as people from all around the country who might vacation near Lake Lida and one way or another found them. He talked about one family that's been coming back pretty much every summer for 20 years. And it's popular, and that's sort of shows itself. He said on a busy day, the waiting line for the afternoon service could be an hour's wait for your food. And he said it's not uncommon for somebody in a boat to pull up at the beach, order their food, go back to the lake, do some fishing or boating, and then wait for a phone call to alert them that their food is ready, and then they come back and get it. So sometimes there might be a wait. There wasn't much of a wait when we were there. We were there bright and early on a recent morning. But there were people ready right at 11 a.m. to order some food. So I think it's probably a pretty steady thing during the day.
And you had an interesting encounter there as well with someone who had come from quite a ways away and keeps coming back. I believe I recall from your story that Phil has a little bit of a saying that everyone is a repeat customer.
Yeah, he likes to say that, and I think it's probably true. I encountered two people who came from a far distance. One was a family that I believe, I forget which state, but they're from out of state and they come every summer. And then I met a gentleman who was there with his family for the first time. They're from Texas, although the gentleman himself is originally from the Detroit Lakes area. He said he was in the area visiting relatives and they were looking for some place to go for lunch, and they stumbled upon Maple Beach. And he had not yet had his lunch, so I couldn't get a review of it from him, but they were just intrigued kind of by its aesthetic, and I think it was a fun adventure for them.
What do you think the charm is of a place like this? I mean, it's a somewhat nondescript location. The lake is right there and everything. I don't want to undersell that, but what do you think it is that pulls people back so far off the beaten path to continue going to places like this? And these sort of places dot the Minnesota Lakes area. There's so many similar places like this. What is it that keeps pulling these people back?
Well, one may be a sense of tradition. Phil and his family have been there now for 33 years. So the fact that somebody is investing that much of their life in a place, I think people admire and respect that. And they will support that with their business. One of the things they used to do in the past, if you were to order your food and then wait outside for it, they would often pound on the window to let you know it was ready. They've since evolved into bagging that up in a plastic bag and bringing it out to you. But Phil mentioned the people who really like that will still ask that he do that for them. So tradition, the family's commitment, all of that, I think, is a kind of, he said they don't have a special sauce, but if there was one, it might be, number one, the freshness of their ingredients. Their hamburger is never frozen. He said they work really hard to get fresh ingredients to put on those burgers, their onions and mushrooms. So there's that element. But again, there's this tradition and sort of just nostalgia. I think that might, if there is a secret sauce, that's part of it.
And Dave, I know that you said you had to eat there. And by the way, I did not see any burgers make their way back to the forum office. So thanks a lot for that. Did you get the window banging treatment? I need to know.
No, it was brought to us in a bag. But, perhaps one reason we didn't bring any back, again, we wanted to be true to the freshness guarantee. And, it might have lost something in the journey, but it was good served up fresh. So.
I think it might have, Dave. And Dave, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast here to give us a peek into some of the charm, some of the mystique about Maple Beach Grill and the resort area around it. I think it's going to be time for me to get in my car and drive out there pretty soon. So, again, thank you so much for being here, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Thomas. It was fun.
Get 3 months of local news for just 99 cents a month. You'll get unlimited access to the news you need to stay engaged and connected to your community. Visit InForum.com/subscribe now to get 3 months of local news for only 99 cents a month.